And Kayelee was like, "Can we talk about the feminine?" I was like, "Can you talk about that for 5 years?" And she was like, "Yeah, okay, then that's what we'll make it about."
This is kind of our behind the scenes of like, how does this work for us?
I was at one point like, remember when we weren't sure if we could do this for 5 years, and now we just don't have enough time to drop all the content. Like, that's why we started doing twice a week. Welcome to the Feminine Alchemy Podcast, where we explore the truth about the feminine, the peaceful, the wild, and the visceral. I'm your host, Jaye Anne, joined by my co-hosts, Julie Dean Richards and Kayelee Rose. Each week, we explore the deep mysteries of the feminine and help listeners apply them to their daily lives in a practical way. Join us to unlock the hidden wisdoms your soul has been waiting for. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Feminine Alchemy. I'm Jaye Anne, and we've got Julie Dean Richards here. Say hi.
Hello.
Hi, and we do not have Kayelee Rose here. She is still recovering, which is wonderful. And we'll talk more about her updates as we go on. But this is our episode all about our 1-year anniversary. Woo!
Yay, I'm so excited. We have been waiting to do this episode for a whole year, Jaye Anne. We have been waiting for a whole year, and now we finally get to do this episode because our podcast survived for a year, which, fun fact, most podcasts don't survive that long, and most podcasts never make it past 30 episodes. So we're pretty proud of ourselves that we have been able to make it this far. And today we want to share with you a little bit of how the podcast came to be,
Yep.
our personal experiences around it, what we see in the future. We are astrologers here, so we're going to take a little peeky peek at our podcast chart. Yes, our podcast does have an astrology chart. So where should we get started?
I, first of all, just want to thank everybody for listening. It has been an amazing ride. We have, as of, I don't know, it's like almost a month ago, we have over 10,000 downloads. So that is a big deal. Oh my gosh. And I've even seen a resurgence in some really, really, really old episodes before we even got together. So there's definitely people going, okay, let me go back and let me see what's up. So we'll talk a little bit about history because you might see some weird stuff if you go too far back. Let's talk about the sun, moon, and rising of our podcast.
I'm so excited. Yay, the sun. We were talking about this before the show, and we're like, oh, we love our sun, moon, and rising. We love
We
our
do.
chart.
We love
It's
our
so
chart.
great.
It's so perfectly aligned.
A perfect chart for our podcast. Ooh la la. So for people who don't know, you can literally make an astrology chart for anything. Like you can make it for your business, you can make it for your marriage, you can make it for a relationship, whatever it is. And the way that you do that is you just use the date, time, and place that something took place. So for us, what we're using for our podcast is we actually used the exact moment our first episode dropped as the beginning. So that's what we're counting it from. And that was midnight on October 7th, 2024. So exciting. And our sun, moon, and rising as a podcast is a Libra sun. Surprise, surprise. A Sagittarius moon and a Cancer rising. How do you feel about that, Jan?
I mean, I could do without the Libra sun, but whatever. I'm just kidding. It's actually really apropos because it is about like bringing that balance of we've tipped the tables too far into hyper masculinized women, and let's bring it more feminine and bring that equality. I am valuable in my own right, not just I am valuable because I can pretend to be a man kind of stuff. So the Libra sun actually really fits so well. And the Cancer ascendant is beautiful because we're talking about slowing down. And so like the kind of the entry point when you come and get to know us, you realize I need to slow down. I need to be nurturing to myself. I need to practice self-care and practice that capability to like, oh, I don't need to like drive. Like if it's not an Aries rising.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and it's also so beautiful because we talk a lot about the goddess within, the goddess without. Even the idea, the concept of divine femininity is very Cancerian ruled. And how do we nurture ourselves? So I think that's super right on. And like you said about the sun, that equality piece. So bringing back balance, bringing back balance. We talk about that so many times. Like in our Asteroid Goddess series, we've been talking about it a lot. Like, how do we bring back the pendulum from swinging too far? And also in this chart, our sun is conjunct to Mercury, which is really lovely for it's exactly what we're doing. We're talking about it, right? Mercury is all about talking. We can't help but talk about the balance, talk about what we're bringing. And then, of course, we have this lovely Sagittarius moon, the explorer, the teacher, the
I love
professor.
that. I love that. It's really because a main focus of this, like one of the main pillars, not that we like sat down and wrote out pillars, but one of the main pillars that has come up is this culturally rooted, what is the context that we understand femininity in, and what are the hidden secrets culture wise around how we got here. You know, we have all these lovely episodes of we have Dave Butler on. We have lots of people talking about like how the heck did we even get here and how can we even make those changes without deeply understanding on an emotional level how we got here. So it's just like the perfect moon sign for this.
It is. It's a lot of the heart of what we're trying to express and get people, right? Like that moon. How are we trying to get people to go, what's underneath all of this? And how can we look at that? How can we use this and explore this as a tool for our healing and to bring that balance and to nurture ourselves? And I just wanted to say in this chart, of course, our midheaven is in Pisces in the ninth house, which is echoes that perfectly, teaching, talking about spirituality, talking about watery stuff, intuition, femininity, and exploring it in a ninth house way, which is higher learning, education, teaching. So it's this chart. Of course, we knew it was going to be perfect, but it is like the perfect chart.
Absolutely. And while we were beforehand, we just looked at the chart like a few minutes before we turned on the record. And Julie was like, "Of course we all get sick because we have Mars and Cancer in the first house," which is interesting because what the sickness, what the pregnancies have taught us is that we are interconnected, that we can lean on each other, and that it's not on any one of us to make it happen. This podcast can only be possible when we are able to practice interdependence in a way that we have. So that way, each one of us can rest when we need to rest and be present when we need to be present, and letting that sort of flow happen in a very healing way. It's like just so perfect.
So this, yeah. It's so perfect, and I do love that the North Node, which is about, like, what does your soul want? Where are you going? In that 10th house in Aries is very much this, like, we're pioneering this. Like, we're here to pioneer and make this a way and show and actually physically, right? Aries is very much about the physical and the self. Like, we're bringing it to the listener. We're bringing it to them so that they can physically incorporate it, and we have to model it, right? That ascendant is like, we're trying to model this, and what we want to do is bring it specifically to you, to the people, so you can have this and do it yourself and feel, that fire burn in you
Ooh,
and feel like it's possible for you.
I love it. It's a good chart. So many cool stuff about this chart, but it's not just about this chart.
Yeah,
This
I
whole
know. I'm
episode
like,
isn't just about the chart. But this is what you get when you have astrologers doing a podcast. Sorry, guys. Not sorry. Not at all sorry.
not sorry at all. Although I think we could talk about this chart for the whole podcast. I guess we should probably talk more about the podcast
hmm
instead.
How did we even get here? Why is this even a thing?
Like the history, do you wanna talk about, like, how we started it? You kinda started
Yeah,
it. You're a
I did.
starter.
I am. And my North Node is also in Aries. So it was just after my nodal return that I was like, I had a podcast, which is why you have all these episodes before October 7th, 2024. I had a podcast. I was like podcasting from 2021 through 2024. And I was just like not consistent. We're not as inspired. Sometimes I'd be inspired, and then sometimes I'd be not inspired. It was very much a on the bandwagon, off the bandwagon. I had a random conversation with Leander Witchwood before I even knew she was Leander, who she was. I was just like, oh, she was a lady at a party. And she's like, oh, I have a podcast. She told me how long she'd been podcasting. I was like, how do you do that? She's like, I have a co host. And I was like, I'm going to file that one away. I don't know where to find a co host. Like the end, whatever. That was like a year. That was probably the middle of 23. And I literally was talking to Ali Gisette, who we love. And she was like, oh, because I was telling her about my interests, and I have these other interests that I didn't want to, because she has people who have been, like, deeply hurt by what's called satanic ritual abuse, and so she has a very different definition of witches than and witchcraft than what we're talking about here, and I did not want her audience to be triggered or confused by somebody working under her talking about witches, and that was, like, terrifying to me to be, like, hurting people when I'm trying to help somebody else. So I was like, look, Allie, I don't think I can work for you anymore because I feel like I need to talk about this, but I don't want to hurt your audience. And she's like, oh, this makes so much sense. And actually, I didn't even tell her. She just like divined it as she does. She's like, oh, this is about the witch wound. I was like, yes, it is. How did you know? Like, it was a wild conversation, but conversations with Allie are always wild. Amazing. And she's like, you should talk to my friend, Julie Dean Richards. And I was like, okay, who is this? So I did. And I was just messaged Julie immediately after this conversation, same day. And she was like, weird that you want me to start a podcast with you. Can I meet you first? And I was like, fair enough. That
Say
works.
like it was weird. It wasn't weird. I just was like, maybe we should have like a chat. She's like, yeah, because it's hilarious because you messaged me and Allie messaged me at the same time. And
Really?
so
That's
Allie
funny.
voice messaged me and she was like, "Hey, Jan's gonna message you because like I don't know if she said she didn't say that you wanted me to be your podcast host or anything, but she was like, she needs to be friends with you. I think you guys will really click." And then as soon as she sent that, you sent the message at the exact same time.
Mm.
So for me, it was like a double whammy. And I was like, hi, Jan, let's be friends. Like, yeah, we can be friends. And then you're like, actually, I'm looking for a podcast co host. I was like, oh, a podcast co host. That sounds so fun, like because people in my life have told me, probably everybody knows because I talk so freaking much. People in my life have told me forever, like, you should have a podcast. You should have a podcast. You should on all my platforms. Like when I did my legal work, when I did my research work, like so many
Mhm.
people were like, you need to do this. And I always was kind of like, I don't know if I have the resources to do this. I don't know. Like, also kind of discouraged by my husband, which is hilarious because he's such a huge proponent of the podcast now. But, like, just, he was like, I don't know if it's time yet. Like, you were trying to focus on so many things, finish law school first, do all these things first before you start a podcast. And so then when Jaye Anne messaged me, I was like, hi. I was like,
You do.
but, but I was like, maybe I should talk to her, I guess. First. We should have a conversation. So we did. And then what happened?
Well, you were like, "Can I bring my friend Kayelee?" And I was like, "Yes, I already know Kayelee. I've loved Kaylee's work for such a long time. I did not know you guys were starting the Feminine Alchemist school together." It was just like crazy. Okay, yes, I would love to have Kaylee's wisdom on here. I didn't even think that she would be interested in some of this like witchier stuff, and I came to find out like, oh, she's so into it. So it's great. It was great. Yeah, and so we all had a conversation and we were just asking the question. I was like, we were like, what is this podcast going to be about? Because we have to have a clear focus. My previous podcast was called Deep Healing with Jaye Anne, and it was just like me bebopping around. And I was like, that's not really a three-person conversation. So what are we going to talk about? And Kayelee was like, can we talk about the feminine? I was like, can you talk about that for 5 years? And she was like, yeah, okay, then that's what we'll make it about. Cause it's always been a really important topic in my mind is this, where's the feminine? Where's the feminine? Where's the feminine? Because it has been proactively deleted. And I spent the first 2 years of my personal healing journey asking that question, reading the Bible and asking this question and going, what the heck is going on here? And why does it say these words? Like, why does it call the wisdom she? in as an embodiment of the feminine, and how did that happen, and why are we not talking about that? It's in there, but we're just gonna glaze right past it. So it's always been something that's been powerfully on my mind, but I just had no idea how to talk about it or what to say or whether it was worth making a forefront. Like I know, and I didn't know if everybody was like interested. So here we are a year later, and yes, people are interested in that conversation. So it's been such a good ride. What else happened that I missed?
When Jaye Anne said that when she was like, "Are we sure we can talk about this for 5 years? Do you think we can do this?" But later, like Kayelee and I pitched her, like, some ideas. We were like, "Well, we can also talk about, like, the feminine in relation to all these things, like money wounds and, like, this and that," and she was like, "Oh, okay, like, I'm seeing the broader picture of what we're talking about rather than just talking about one single thing," and that, I think, helped all of us to kind of come together with like, okay, this is like our vision of what we want to, piece together here. And we wrote down like episodes, and the episodes Kayelee writes down are always like the deepest. Let's write down the most deep, like the most esoteric. I mean, not always the most esoteric, but definitely the most Kayelee like episodes ever, which is so great. But yeah, we struggled with a name. It wasn't that long. We struggled with a name for a while,
Like a week.
like a
It
week.
was a
Yeah,
whole week.
it was. It was a whole week that we struggled. And we like batted literally so many names around. And then we finally decided, like, okay, feminine alchemy, like that's it. It like makes so much sense. It's what we're talking about. It broadens the spectrum. It creates transformation. There's just so much about it that this is it. And even the cover, I felt bad a little bit because Kayelee like put forward a couple covers and I was like, no. I feel like I'm always the mean one. I'm always like, nah, this is not the one. But when we found it, we were very quick to see it and jump on it, and everything flowed. Like it was the perfect season. October was perfect. I remember we recorded those 3 episodes together back to back and we held on to them, and we were like so excited to like release some stuff in mass and have content for people. And honestly, I was like, there's probably going to be like 10 people who listen to this, ever. And then come to find out, it kind of just exploded all on its own and continues. And I don't know if you've checked, Jan, but we have more than 11,000 downloads now, which
Wow.
is amazing and
Yeah.
exciting for us.
Yeah, the first episode, we dropped it and immediately it had like 80 listens, which is like more than all of my any given month, week, year of everything combined. And I was like, well, I think we're onto something here. I think this is important. Also, we have magical additional people who are really good at this, finding the right people.
It's so important to people. And just to give people a frame of context, everyone wants to start a podcast. Just like putting this out there as someone who before doing this, I have gone on lots and lots and lots of podcasts. And I have talked to a lot of people who have podcasts. And typically for a podcast, unless you already have a giant like Instagram audience or something like that, typically you should expect to get less than 1,000 downloads in 1 year. That's what most people get. They get less than 1,000 downloads in 1 year. I just was talking to a friend about like her podcast, and she's like, well, at least I've gotten 660 downloads, in this year. That's like huge statistically. And I was like, whoa, it just like made me feel so grateful. So thank you everyone for listening and who's there with us and following along and growing this and by sending it to your friends, because it has made a huge impact. And I think we each have personally had people approach us and thank us for the podcast. Do you want to talk anything about that, Jan? Any of the
I sure
experiences?
have. Yeah. Like, I've had a lot of people come to me like, we get you can send a text through I think it's Buzzsprout. You can send a text, and we don't know who these people are. We don't know their phone numbers. We can't reply to you, but it's really cool because people send us messages and say, "Thank you for doing this. I love this episode," or "I love this aspect of the episode," from, like, all over the place. Like, I've got one from Hawaii, of course, a couple are in Utah, some in Nevada. Pennsylvania, like, this is really cool. We're getting these messages from people all over the US. And I know there's lots of listeners in Canada too, because I know them. I know who they are, which is really cool too. So, yeah, but a lot of people are like different episodes. I'm sorry, I need a whole episode on this one sentence that Kayelee said.
It's very, very true. Didn't you have that friend, like, it was shortly after we started the podcast, a woman came over to your house and was like, "Thank you for doing this and starting the podcast, like, I'm seeing the feminine in such a different way."
Yeah, yeah, that was cool. I was like, oh, I didn't know you. Nice. Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, I also have had old friends, people I was like, "You listen to this? I never thought you would ever listen to this." Be like, "No, I'm all caught up and like I love it," and give me their tips. Like one of my friends was like, "Jaye Anne's my favorite." I love Jaye Anne the most, and it always like makes me just smile. People talking about how much it's impacted them, the way that they see the feminine. And, we feel so grateful. So, one of the big things that happened to us to kind of continue on um, with the storyline, what's happened this year, giving you guys more of an update of what this year has been like for us as we this is kind of our behind the scenes of like how does this work for us, how do we actually feel about what's going on. And if you are somebody who wants to start a podcast and you're thinking about it, like we've had a couple people approach us about this, we'll let you know. We're gonna about to spill all our secrets, everybody, about our behind the scenes. So this year we quickly moved. So this is most people when they start their podcast, if you've been thinking about starting a podcast, most people start a podcast on Zoom. They get Zoom. Most people have like a Zoom subscription and they record the episodes and then they use something like Buzzsprout to upload those episodes and to play to have them play. And we Zoom now is like starting to catch up and they are having a lot of integrations that allow you to do editing. But the big thing when you use Zoom is oftentimes you have to get a second editor. If you are going to get a second editor, I would recommend Descript. It is like super easy to use and it's one of the cheapest things you can do. But for us, what happens with Zoom is the audio quality is just not as good. And so we quickly moved from, recording these on Zoom to choosing something called Riverside. And that's how we record. In this behind the scenes look at how our podcast works, we decided to use something that would not only help smooth our audio, but make it easy for us to edit and run through. If you're someone who's like, I can't start a podcast because it will take so much time and I could never edit it, something like Riverside does all the work for you pretty much that
Mm.
it makes it so easy to go through and do it. And for us, because we're a feminine podcast, this year has been a lot about balance and choosing things that work for an actually feminine lifestyle of taking breaks, giving, each other time to when we need that time. And so we are glad that we chose it. And so we have, I don't know if everyone wants to know. It has been like a ride. We've learned a lot.
Yeah.
We've learned I am the spreadsheet person in this context, at least in this context. I am the spreadsheet person who puts everything and I color code this spreadsheet and I'm like, this is what's coming up next. And I update all the things. Jan and I mostly do the technical side and work through that together. And we often tend to, for people who don't know, like people are always surprised. They're like, oh, it's going to take a couple months for you to drop my episode. And I'm like, yeah, because we're pretty stacked up. Like we
Yeah.
get stacked up quick. That's like our magic superpower is we get real stacked up real fast and we are able to stack those episodes for all of you. And that's been a really cool
Yeah, like going
experience.
back to that question of like, can we can we talk about this for 5 years? And then almost within a month, we had already had everything lined up through like February. And Kayelee and you guys were both like, at one point, like, remember when we weren't sure if we could do this for 5 years, and now we just don't have enough time to drop all the content. Like that's why we started doing twice a week at certain times because we were like, well, I don't want to make this person wait like 6 months before their episode drops. And I don't want to make the listeners wait 6 months to hear this stuff because it's like super important. I don't care. I don't care who you are. This is like super important stuff. All of it's super important. But yeah, it was like, yeah, can we do this for 5 years? Yeah, we've already planned out 6 months worth of content without even thinking twice.
100%. It's been so quick, and that is my advice for people who are thinking about starting a podcast is, well, one is if you have guests and things like that, you can stack up your content really quickly and build a repertoire. Like I tell people this is the thing to do with Instagram or whatever content too is you build the content for a while in the background for a couple weeks, you are busy. You're busy for a couple weeks, you do a bunch of interviews, you do a bunch of stuff, and then you trickle that out. And that's how you
Mhm.
keep yourself, that's how you give yourself the breaks. Like we were not sweating over the holidays at all. There was nothing. We had so much time because we had so many episodes. And like Kayelee going on maternity leave, she was like, will we have enough content? I'm like, Kayelee, are you kidding me? Like, yes, we will have, like, it took us literally 1 week to go from like, oh, I guess we should do some interviews to like, oh, wait, we have 5 months worth of interviews already stacked. So if you are thinking about it, it's worth it to wait, which is one of the things we did. It is worth it to wait to have bingeable content and to stack up your content and then start it because it will make your life so much easier. And it made our lives a million times easier.
And I will also say, like, one of my biggest fears doing it by myself was believing that people with large accounts would come on my podcast. And Julie has been expanding that belief system incredibly huge because she just cold DMs or cold emails like people with 100,000 followers on Instagram. Like, and they're like, "Yes, I'm gonna be on this podcast. You are the important." So here we are. Like that's how that happens. But I think also because it's not just like we're not just like friends goofing off. We have like a focus. And that really helps people know exactly whether it's something they want to be a part of or not, instead of like, hey, you want to come over and like we just throw jokes at you and be weird, and that's that. And which is a very, very happy content. But for certain people, like that just might not be what they want to be on. Right. So that might be harder to find a person for.
As you were talking about this, I'm like, I need to make one day I'm going to make a course, a master class on how do you get people on your podcast? How do you get onto podcasts and our key secrets. We should have one of those. Our secrets of how we do the things. But one of the things I will say, don't be afraid to cold DM people because, yeah, the worst thing they can do is look at it and never respond to you, or say no. Like the worst thing they're going to do is say no because I think we're always like worried someone's going to say something snide to you. People who have hundreds of thousands of followers do not have time to say snide remarks to you and go through their thing. They don't have time to do that. They have a million DMs. And so you don't need to be afraid of that if that's like the fear that they'll look down on you. And also, if you're afraid you won't get a second chance, that's also not true. There have been people that I have DM'd who never answer me back. And then I used a different channel and they came on the podcast or we became friends or something happened. So you're not ruining your chance by sending a DM to somebody. But that has always been kind of my philosophy. I think it's the double cardinal signs in me. I can't like have to do the things. Like I'm just going to do it. Here we go. Like it's a little more controlled because it's Capricorn and Cancer, but I do think and I'm a 4/6 in human design, so like networking is my jam, relationships are my jam, but it has been really eye-opening. I mean, the way I started was because I had experience going on other people's podcasts, it was then very easy for me to reach out to them and ask them to come on our podcast. And then to reach out to their network and just ask them, do you know anyone who you think would be a good fit for our podcast who would enjoy it? And that's how you do it. Just one little piece after another little piece. And now I'm not afraid, even though I have my Instagram is by anyone's standards is tiny. But when after this drops, we're going to have Camellia on. She has 300,000 followers and she didn't bat an eye about it. So if you have a small audience, this has turned into a pep talk episode. But don't be afraid, I guess, is the thing. Don't be afraid. People feel your confidence. And I think what Jaye Anne said is key. Have a legit goal, have a legit niche, and, be direct. And you'll be surprised.
Although I will say there is one of those podcasts that is just like a couple of guys just yucking it up, and they just released their 1 year anniversary episode, and I was like, wait, you've only been doing this a year? And this was like back in June. And I was like, we're so behind. These idiots have all these followers and all these people and make all this money. And I was like, okay, whatever. Like that was a lot of like letting go of a lot of limiting beliefs. Whatever. I'm just gonna send all these DMs. So I got a couple of other interviews coming in that are like 100. They have $100,000, 100,000 followers. They probably have more than $100,000 at this point.
Which is a thing though, like with those guys, you don't know how many followers they started with or if they built something before. I doubt both of them started from 0 making their podcast too.
Yeah, I have no idea. I didn't really look into their history other
Yeah.
than like their claim to fame, like their biggest thing that they do is it's called the meantime, is they literally just make up parodies on the spot, like improv parody songs. They're terrible. It's just funny. Anyways, my husband watches them all the time.
That's so great.
So, yeah, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be the best. You don't have to be winning. You just ask. You just ask. And if they don't respond, it doesn't mean anything. That's the biggest thing. It like literally means nothing. It is not a, oh, I'm not good enough. It's not a, yeah, it's literally all of this. Everything you do in any version of life, but particularly in such a concentrated space such as business and attention, is a personal development journey. So
Truth.
get ready for that.
So true. And I will say
Yeah,
we've had lots of people reach out to us and ask to be
that's
on the
true.
podcast. And just if anyone wants to reach out and be on the podcast, we are open, but make sure that what you send us is not just like a bunch of fluffy words made by AI and stacking your supposed nebulous accomplishments against each other, but like actually, just be a real person. And
Please. We love real people.
we're for the real people who want to come on.
I felt so bad. I like yelled at somebody about this and then they sent me another AI response and I was like, cool.
I mean, they replied to their credit. Like most people would like
I know.
not reply.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as someone who has reached out to be on a lot of podcasts before, this is something I do all the time. My success rate is quite high because I am an actual human. And also, make sure you actually listen to the podcast before you ask to be on the podcast. Listen to one freaking episode so that
Mm,
you know that the people align with you before, or that they might even be interested in what you say. Don't just take the name and be like, they probably like what I like, or they are doing well in this niche. Actually, pay attention. Anyway, sorry. This is my spiel. Again, this is like becoming our secret master class behind podcasting.
yeah. Yeah. I think there's gonna be a lot of people who are like, "Yes, I'm gonna listen to this again and again." Like, seriously. But, let's shift gears. What are some of your favorite episodes besides Dave Butler ever? That is our most listened to podcast episode,
Mhm.
was Dave Butler and the Hidden Goddess in the Old Testament. And now I've seen and I think this is just my Instagram algorithm working for me, but I've seen a lot more content on this specific topic since then. And it's kind of a big deal. That hands down is my favorite episode, even though it's like 2.5 hours long. Listen to it, guys.
No, it's super worth it. And you know what? People listen to 2-hour podcasts all the time. Some of the most
Yeah,
popular podcasts are 2.5 hours. And so people can buckle in for it. They can do it. But
it's
yeah,
so good.
I will say, don't worry, Dave is coming back. He is much requested. And
Mhm.
I literally texted him, I don't know, last week or whatever. We chatted and he's still planning. He's just really in the middle of his book right now, which is all about the New Testament, the goddess in the New Testament. It's not just about the goddess in the New Testament, it's about a bunch of really cool esoteric stuff. But that's a big focus too. And he's always like, don't worry, Julie, I'm coming onto your podcast. Don't worry. He's always like, I've not forgotten about you. I would never forget about you. I'm like, thank you, Dave. We love you so much. But yes, definitely hands down, favorite episode of all time. That was amazing. I think other episodes that I have loved, I'll do some ones that the three of us have done and then some interviews. Does that work? Should we
Yeah,
just start?
yeah.
Let's just start with like the ones about us that we like.
Yeah.
This
Well, I
summer
like all of the ones with all of it. Like, that's really hard choice.
It's is really hard, and I over the summer, as we were selecting our replay series, part of the goal of the replay series was to have a few key episodes to be like, "Hey, listen to this replay series, and it will give you the core of the podcast. What we're trying to get through to you, like the important things." So, I loved going back through that, seeing our evolution. It was so huge. It was so huge. And everybody's first couple episodes are always a little awkward, a little shaky as you're getting to know each other. But it was really beautiful to see our transformation, how much we changed, how much our language kind of changed, and like our familiarity. And that was really beautiful. And so, of course, I recommend, I always love every episode in the replay series was really amazing. I think people are super interested in the Sacred Rage episodes. I think people want us to do another one, which we totally can do another Sacred Rage episode. People are
Yeah.
really that one instantly got more downloads than any of the other replays because I think it's such a topic that has been so hidden. So that's one of my favorites. Of course, I'm going to say The Heroine's Journey is one of my most favorites because it's my baby. I love The Heroine's
Mhm.
Journey. And I loved that episode. Like, it was a fun episode to do. And I always love because I feel like Jan's always like, I don't know if I know that much about this thing. And then she like whips out all this stuff.
That's
She's
true.
she always has like the best anecdotes and like she's whipping out all this stuff during the episode, which she did during that episode. Really loved that one. I felt like the shadow work episode was pretty profound.
Mhm,
Honestly, it was pretty
mhm.
important. It was pretty profound. So I love from us, oh, I don't know. It's so hard. Okay, here's the thing is like the full Asteroid Goddess series isn't out yet, but the Asteroid Goddess series have been some of my most favorites.
So incredible. So incredible. Like, there's so much in there that I'm like, again, I say, I have no idea what this is, what I'm talking about, and then I'm seeing us talk about this, and we're just unearthing and unearthing and unearthing and unearthing and recognizing, like, it's like you've uncovered an entire old city. That's what the Asteroid Goddess episodes are like. It's like you're digging an archaeological dig one layer at a time and recognizing how much value you've actually uncovered and you didn't realize it. And I love them so much for that because we are looking at the Asteroid Goddesses in a totally different way than what, like, the way most people look. Like, yes, it's there. Everything that everybody else says about Asteroid Goddesses is there, but we're looking at it in a totally different light. And it's just so powerful. It's just so powerful. So if you haven't listened to those, go back and do it.
You should. Yeah, that's why there's some of I just feel like things keep getting better and better. I loved our palace episode. It was really, really powerful. They're all really powerful, but that one was when I edited that one, I was like, "Ooh, this one got me."
Mm.
It really, really got me. So those are some of my favorites that we did. Do you
Vesta
have any
one
to add?
surprised me a lot. That's the one I'm actually kind of referencing. Like, the Vesta one was like, at first I thought I knew 0 things about Vesta, but as we're talking, apparently I know things about Vesta, or at least, like, I divine the energies, right? Like, that's typically what happens is I sort of, like, catch the frequency because that's what I've always practiced. That's what I've always been seeking my entire life is, like, can I feel into the frequency of the bones of the universe? Everything else is just details. And so then I start talking about stuff that I didn't know I knew about all the time.
Yeah, it's super powerful. So it's going to come out in a couple weeks. So listen for
Yeah.
Vesta because she is going to be a big surprise. I think so many people will be so surprised about her and how much power there is. And I can't wait to do the rest of them. But what about you, Jan? Of the ones we've done, is there one that like sticks out to you strongly?
The Wheel of the Year ones were surprisingly amazing, right? They were delicious because there's snacks involved. But I mean, it just really solidified the importance of celebration, the importance of grounding into cycles and recognizing, like, there are high times, and even the rest of the world is going crazy, it's still a good thing to ground in and celebrate the stuff that the earth is offering us. I love those. All of those episodes are my favorite too.
Yeah, they're really fun. They were really great ones. I was kind of expecting you to say the Lilith episode was one of
Always
your
Lilith. I mean, I
favorites.
could talk about Lilith forever. I love the Shadow episode. Lilith, we got really, like I think like, the topic of Lilith is my favorite. I think we started learning how to talk to each other, with each other during that episode specifically, so there's a lot of, like, "I wanna hold space for your thing," like, there was a lot of, like, relational stuff that started to evolve in that episode that made it, I think, a little bit choppy, but I loved I love talking about Lilith. Like, I could talk about Lilith any day of the week. So,
Yeah, for sure.
mm, Lilith
She is a
Lilith is
good
fun.
one.
This is a good one. But they're all
Yeah.
my favorite. That's just, like that's such a rude question.
Sorry, I'm so rude
It's
over
like,
here.
which one of your kids is your favorite? I don't know how to answer that.
Well, then fine. Out of the interviews, which one are there some that stick out to you?
It was really cool to talk to Allison Canavan. That was cool, especially because that was our first interview. I was like, "How did we get a former supermodel on our podcast as our first interview? What?" That was a total brain expansion for me. Of course, I always love talking to Ali Gisette. That was a good interview. There were a couple of human design and business ones that were really good. Um, and then who was the free birther you had on? She was pretty good too.
Rebirther I had on. Who was it? I mean, I had the Primal Priestess on. She
Maybe
talked
that's who
about
I'm thinking
business.
about. She talked about business.
Yeah, she is a free birther. That's true.
Okay, yeah. Yep. Yeah, those were all good though. I really liked having Andre Ayesta on because he brought the masculine side of, like, what does it look like to soften into the feminine as a go, go, go man. That was really cool. That and he talked about his 7-hour astrology reading. That cracks me up.
Yes. Yes. I was surprised by his interview. I really liked it. I thought he did a really good job. When you first suggested it to have, we were like, a man? We like all of us were skeptical. We were all like, are we gonna have this guy? Come on, I don't know. But he turned out to be great, which was really cool. And he's only the second man we've ever had on the podcast besides Dave
Mhm.
for many reasons, but I thought it was a good bridging the gap interview. Other people I loved, I always love, I mean, I've said it before, like you said, I love the Primal Priestess episode. That was just really good. I just think that she has such a great energy, bringing you down, talking about business in a way that is so feminine and like making you sit. Like she had such great sound bites that she did. I love Helena Woods.
Mhm.
It's like hard for me. I'm like, all these people are my friends. I
Yeah.
love my friends. I love talking to all my friends.
Kale Blossom was good. Love talking to
Yes,
Kale.
that was so
That episode
fun.
was beautiful.
You know who else was so fun was Holistic Hilda. We had Hilda on.
Mm,
And that was, like,
that
such a
was a
fun
good one.
conversation. Yeah. It was you and
Yeah.
me and Hilda, and we love the Weston A. Price Foundation, so that was, like, so fun and amazing for us to be able to chat with her, and Hilda's just, like, a joy. She's, like, one of those people who just, like, makes you smile by
Yes.
talking to her.
Yes.
So, that was really lovely.
She just exists in smile mode. It's just
She
so
does.
interesting.
She totally,
She's not
totally does.
faking it. She just literally is just always smiling.
She is. She's one of those people. I'm sure someone's like, "You're missing me. You didn't talk
Right.
about me."
What about my episode? Well, they were also amazing.
They were. So many people had so many great episodes. I did love doing the astrology series together.
That was
That
fun.
was that was really fun. But you know, one that is like a secret standout was the sacred spaces one, creating your own sacred spaces. That was like such a fun.
That was super fun. I really liked that one. And the cacao episode A lot of people loved that episode.
Yeah, it was really beautiful. And then I'll just say, sorry, we're like talking about every single episode. People are like, okay. But I will tell you, okay, two things, two secrets. Well, the last one I'm gonna say is Stella. I always have to say Stella's episode. It was one of my most favorite episodes. She is one of those women like Jaye Anne talked about, like bringing it on hard. Like her stuff is legit. It will make you question your life in so many ways, but she is such an amazing researcher, and similar to Dave Butler and some of the other people we've had on, she really brings the cultural background and makes us look at history differently. And I just think this idea, she's going to come back on the podcast. We've already talked about it, to have her talk about her more recent work and the background and things like that. But her work with dreams, like I had never met someone who was like, yeah, I can teach you how to like work with your dreams and like use your dreams as in this powerful way. I was like, whoa, this is so cool. And her experience about women when in her cohorts, men dreaming the same things, dreaming together, how they learn to dream together. That was very eye opening and mind blowing. So that's the first thing. Always love Stella.
Yeah, her stuff is so good. Her stuff is so good.
The second secret I will tell you that people don't know is we have had a member of Congress listen to one of our episodes and send it to other representatives. Yeah, that is a secret that I learned recently. So there you go. Somebody out there, I will not name names, but government officials have heard some of our work, which is kind of fun.
Crazy.
Yeah, so crazy.
So crazy. What are some things that you're working on in your business and in your life right now?
All right, this is my year update, y'all. Here we go. Since this episode hasn't been rambly enough for anyone, Kayelee and I launched the school this year. That was huge for us. Along with the podcast, we launched in December. And for us, it's been such a success of having women who are really close and tight knit. And especially doing the retreat this year, that was really beautiful, like gathering people together. There's just a power when people gather together, and that the women really know each other now. They care about each other because so many of the women who are in our school came to the retreat. And it was a really powerful experience for us to hold space. And we did do a sacred rage exercise during the retreat. That was amazing. We were able to do so many really cool things. And we watched a huge major transformation in that as well, because there were women who came who weren't familiar with our work, which was we were surprised about. And there was a woman in particular who just had a huge, she gave us a video testimonial, so I'm pretty sure she is okay with us talking about it, but she was not in the beginning of the retreat really not locked in, or like just not. I think she went because her friends told her it'd be good for her, and she wasn't sure about it herself. And I don't know if that's exactly what happened, but it was so cool to just watch her completely unlock. And like the first couple days we were like, well, I hope things are good, like we're just going to let her do her own thing, and like whatever happens happens. And then she just completely transformed, completely unlocked, and totally different person, just shined so much. So, those were some huge accomplishments for us this year, and we're still slowly growing the school. If people don't know or didn't hear in our other episode, is I also decided to have a baby this year. My co-host slash business partner and I, for some reason, decided to be pregnant the same year. I don't know how that happened, but so for people who don't know, I am having a baby next year. And that has been like a wild ride. Of course, we sold our house. We are traveling across the country everywhere. This is like state number 32 or 33 or something
Woo!
that we're in. In like 5 months. We have our trailer. We're taking a little bit of a respite right now, visiting my parents, and that's been good. But I have learned, I don't know, this year the podcast, and I say this to Jaye Anne and Kayelee all the time, but the podcast is one of my favorite things that I ever have done and ever do. I
Mm.
love it so much. Like I love it. I love the three of us together. I love the energy. I love talking to people. I love our message. I love everything. And it's been extreme growth. like extreme personal growth at a fast rate as well,
Yep.
you know. Being there also, I would say one of the other highlights this year, it's been cool to connect with people that I never thought, would be my friend or I would be on the podcast with, to bring them on, and to be able to use that like connective power has been really amazing for me. But also, I have just been like so many ups and downs of being exhausted. Feel like I've learned so many things about America and about people. And I will just tell you three things. I have lived in or visited 46 states out of 50 states or 47 states out of 50 states in the union, okay? In the United States. And when you do it in rapid succession, you learn things real quickly about the US. And these are a couple of things I think people don't know or do know. But the first one is everyone in every state that you ever go to always complains about the traffic. Everyone thinks they have the worst traffic. It doesn't matter where you go. Even small town people, because small town people will complain about big city people and big city traffic and it affecting them. And big city people just complain about the traffic, period. And every city, if you ever look up any city to go to or to live, they will always say, oh, yeah, the con of this city is the traffic. Okay. And I am here to tell you, not all of you have the worst traffic. You all think you have the worst traffic. Not all of you have the worst traffic. Traffic just sucks. But I will say the biggest traffic offenders, in my opinion, of course, New York has the worst traffic. Like, let's just not pretend that award was not going to go to New York. It was going to go to New York City. New England has, if you live in the West, a lot of people who listen to this live in the West and don't have as much experience with the East. The East, everything is smaller. Everything is smaller. The roads are older. And so, yes, the East will always have worse traffic than the West. It just is the way that it is because the roads are smaller, especially if you drive with a trailer in Boston at night. That will happen to you.
Oh, and Massachusetts doesn't even have like merging lanes. I don't know how that happens and people don't like die more in Massachusetts, but yeah, when I was up in Massachusetts I got stuck there once. It's a long story. But yeah, I was like, how do you function without so much anxiety?
You don't. You just have to like hold your breath and pray and like look
Mhm.
behind you. And Boston
Assume
was,
people will let you in.
yes,
Just assume
Boston.
it.
Yes, it's so ridiculous. Boston was like the only place that we literally almost got into a legit accident. We were
Yeah.
so close to dying. I mean, I don't know about dying, but our trailer would have died or something would have happened to the other person. But we were saved by angels of grace. And so, anyway, everyone thinks they have the worst traffic. I'm just going to tell you that. Number 2, every place in the US, every region has a smell. You don't think you have a smell because you live in your state and you're used to it, but you have a smell, okay? Especially, it is particularly noticeable if you pass through states quite quickly. You will notice how the smells change and
Yeah.
what happens to the smells. And I will tell you, for people who are wondering, all right, let's just start with the West. The West is kind of does its thing as a whole, well, but the West is kind of, especially in the like dry deserty areas, is very much like the salty pine smell. There's a smell of like salty, and people will be like, "What are you talking about?" I know. I listen. I grew up in the West. I promise I'm not leading you astray, but it's a really dry smell, and it's like this salty smell mixed with like a little bit almost of like a pine, especially if you're going through like Arizona Grand Canyon area, you'll smell that a lot. But it has like this hot, dry smell. The top of the United States, if as you go through that, it smells a lot like sweet meadow. It kind of has like this sweet meadow smell to it. It's a lot more like humidity and it's like fresh and it kind of has like this, yeah, it smells sweet. Like there's a sweet thing that happens. And then the south is very wet. It smells wet because
It just
it's
smells
very
wet because the air is
it's
wet.
yes, it's very humid. It's not a bad smell. It's not like a bad wet smell. That sounds really bad. But it's like wet and lush green. Like that's what it smells a lot like. And all of them have different kinds of trees. Anyway, I could go on and on about the differences, but in the East, you have very thin trees. Except down if you go to the plantations down south, they have really beautiful trees. In the West, you have a lot well, in the desert areas, you don't have very many trees. I'm really sorry. I know you think you have a lot of trees in the West. I know you do. But unless you live on the coast, like we're talking like Northern California and above, you have fewer trees. But those trees on the West Coast are giant trees. And so it's
Yeah.
very interesting because the East has more trees because it has little trees, but the West has giant big trees
Well,
and they're beautiful.
there used to be giant trees here, but we killed them all. Whatever. I have a whole podcast episode on that before before the changeover. I have a whole podcast episode on the American chestnuts. They were enormous.
Some of them are still really big, like I said, especially if you go to the plantations and places like they preserve some of those giant oaks and they're so beautiful. Anyway, everywhere in America has its own beauty and it's beautiful and I've learned so much and I've been so sick all year and I still enjoyed the beauty. There you go. There's my soapbox about my year, I guess. Did I miss anything?
Smells and trees and pregnancies. I guess not. I love it. And traffic.
Um I guess this is a good time to give an update on Kayelee because one of the
Oh,
other
yes.
beautiful things was being at Kaylee's birth was so beautiful. Everyone, her birth was so beautiful. It was such a fast birth. It was so fast. It was like 2 hours flat, totally unexpected. And I will always take credit for this even though it's not my thing to take credit for, but I laughed her into labor, everybody. I made Kaylee Rose laugh so hard, her water broke and she went into labor. So that is my big accomplishment. It was literally from the time her water broke, 2 hours till baby came. I just barely had enough time to turn the camera on so they could have the birth video. And her husband was in complete shock, like she was in complete shock. She literally took this baby in her arms and she goes, "That's all? Like he's here already? Already?" She kept saying that. "Already? Already?" Beautiful, beautiful birth. It was like an amazing moment and being able to be with her preparatory wise that week was a big highlight of my year. The only downside for of the birth was that after she gave birth, I was, oh no, I have so much longer until I give birth. There's so much more time until my baby comes. Oh no, what am I gonna do? But it was really lovely. Of course, sadly, right after that, we have all talked about the hospitalization, the blood clots. So for an update on Kayelee, she actually can walk without a walker now, which is huge. The swelling is going down. Her body, it looks like it's doing its job. Her baby is nursing, which is huge,
Yay!
huge. Yes, yes, her baby is nursing. So that is such a huge accomplishment for them. She still doesn't feel like up to being on the podcast or doing a lot of things. As people can imagine, it's been a huge emotional roller coaster for her and her family. They are so grateful for everyone who has supported them. That's something that they have said multiple times how grateful they are for everyone, all the support, all the love, so much help. But yeah, she is able to walk by herself now. She's able to have her kids mostly like with her husband is still home and she still has help, but she is able to have her kids for longer and her baby is nursing. Not everything is perfect, but she's so grateful for all of that. She's on her way to healing. So that's my Kayelee update.
That is so good. I'm so glad. Thank you. Ah, she's walking. Hey, it's a big deal. What's up with me? Well, this year so right before we launched the podcast, I launched a membership and I was working on building out that membership and I've made some changes to it. Uh, and then yesterday, literally late yesterday, like if you're on my email list, you know this already, but I got this intuitive hit that was like, just don't do any one-to-one sessions, don't do any live sessions, don't do any group live sessions. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm putting all of the live part of this membership on hold. So that was a surprise. Like it's just really shocking to be like, nope, you're not doing this. Nope, you're not doing this anymore. Yeah, and there's a furlough going on and there's a lot of stuff and my husband works for the government, so we'll see what happens. But I'm sure everything will be fine. It's just like one of those things where you go, what am I supposed to learn here? Because I'm kind of really tired of learning stuff, you know? Can I just not learn anything for a while? No, okay. But like I said before, like if you're on a journey to do anything important, like, yeah, you're going to not stop learning the entire time. Like there is no such thing as resting on your laurels. Even like the years that I was like, quote, staying home with my kids has always been years of profound personal development as a byproduct of not having like the distraction of a full time job. Of course, I have the distraction and chaos of children, which is chaos. And that is another part of the learning journey, right? The personal development journey is like children being mirrors and all of that. So that was like how I stayed slightly sane being a stay at home mom because I don't know that I'm necessarily cut out for that. It's like I'm not cut out for it, but I don't think that's the only thing I can exist as. But yeah, that's what is going on right now. What have I done in the last year? What have I done in the last year?
You
Well,
won an award, which we
oh yeah,
didn't
we
talk
won an
about.
award. That was exciting. A lot of it has been like, how do I navigate personal stuff and still maintain a thriving business, right? Like that's been the lesson, right? That's been the question is what does it look like to have difficulty at home and not give up on my business and say, "Oh, I have to put all of this, I have to stop everything here and focus on my family because always there's going to be stuff that comes up in the family." So if both things are true, if both things are my purpose and important for me, how do I make both things be here? You know, how do I make them both priorities? And what does that look like? And what does it look like to find unconventional childcare options? How do I manage that? You know, those kinds of things.
You're doing great.
I mean, it's so fitting that this part of the podcast, we have this deluge of child interaction. It is my life. And I used to do more of this. It used to be, I would have my Tuesday lives and she would be running around in the background and I would have to pick up after her, you know, afterwards. I have books like journals that I can't read anymore because she's written in them, you know, like that's what she does is she just like plays with my stuff all the time. So, but now I have a lot more support, right? She goes to school and we have different things going on that are helpful. So, but still like there's always the question of like, and I think this is a big question on every mom's mind is, am I ignoring my kid when I do my work? Am I ignoring my kid when I self care? Am I creating a problematic complex even though I'm healing my inner child? Am I giving my baby trauma? You know, like those are all the big questions that I don't know that there's an answer to. And I used to believe, and this is largely true, I used to believe that the more I work on myself, like there is a massive trickle down effect. And I did see this. And I've gotten to the point where I've healed through a lot of my own stuff where that wasn't a thing. And the bang for buck wasn't necessarily there. And my kids were old enough that I had to be like, no, I need to like set more clear like leadership boundaries instead of just using them as the only thing they are as mirrors. Using the kids as like anytime I was angry at my kids, I'd be like, what does this tell me about me? What is this really telling me about me? So, but that's the balance thing, right? Like that's the Libra we were just talking about. Yeah, but we won an award. We episode with Hilda was for a charity thing. That was cool. We've had some really cool people on, you know.
Yeah, it's been really amazing to see how it has all come together. And it's been fun for me to be able to visit you and Kayelee multiple times this year,
Yes,
even though
that was
we
cool.
live so far apart. I guess I live nowhere now, but
You live everywhere
I
too.
live everywhere. I live everywhere.
Everywhere and nowhere. I
Everywhere
haven't
and
met
nowhere.
Kayelee in person yet.
Oh my gosh, you haven't. You need to do this. This needs to be done. This is on our bucket list for next year, which brings me to what's our goal? Do we have goals for next year? We're
Keep
already
being
an award.
awesome.
Yeah, being awesome. We're already an award-winning podcast.
We are.
Maybe we'll do more awards next year. Our
My one of my
goals.
goals is to increase our Instagram reach so that more people can find us. And it's a lot easier to share an Instagram reel than a whole podcast episode because it's like, does this person have Spotify? Does this person have iTunes? Like all those questions. So that's my goal is to increase our reach by at the end of the day, like the more people who can see us are the more people who can benefit and learn and experience this type of life that we're talking about. So yeah, that's one of my goals and to keep having like really cool people on.
For sure. I agree with both of those goals. I think having really cool people on. My hope is that this year we get to have that second episode with Dave. That's on my bucket list is to have our part 2 with him. One of my goals is to help, which is the goal of this podcast, but I really want women to feel seen and to feel like they can balance and they have more tools. I want more people to be aware of the tools and understanding on a deeper level and to just be able to like bring those education pieces. And also, I would like this year two things, which we might do before the end of the year, maybe, is I do want to have a husband episode, which has been on our list forever.
Oh my gosh, we've been talking about doing this since the beginning of the podcast.
Yeah. And we have really funny husbands, you guys. So
We
it's
do.
going to be a good episode. And I also want to do a listener Q&A episode. I've always wanted to do one of those and people have asked for them. Although I'm like when we ask people about them, we don't get many people.
Need the cues.
Yes,
Send us
like
the
give us
cues.
the
We'll do
cues.
Q&A.
And we will give you a Q&A. So if you want a Q&A episode, send us the cues, the questions. But yeah, those are some of my goals and to just continue to grow. I hope this year we 10x. I want to 10x our growth this year.
Be awesome. 100,000 downloads in the next year. That
Yeah,
would
that's
be so
right.
cool.
Yeah, let's go. And not just for like the fame of it, but like because I feel like what we're doing is so important. It's just so important.
Exactly. Yeah. I literally do not care if people follow my personal Instagram, but follow the podcast.
Right.
Share it to your friends, like, just to make sure that the people who need to see this are seeing this. That is the number one goal of any of this, is just helping women finally feel empowered when previously it's like, "Oh, I just have to prove that I'm good enough," and no one ever goes, "Congratulations, you have achieved good enough." And it's like, "No, you are good enough, and here's why you've always been good enough, and here's why you feel like you're not. So you can just stop believing you're not." That's all it's about.
Yeah, wake up. You are the lost princess. You are the lost superhero. Wake up. She's there. You are her. So there we go.
There it is. So, what's one thing that you would like to tell everybody about being here for 1 year before we sign off?
It's okay for things to take time.
Mm,
Yeah. It's okay. Like sustainable growth is better than just like jumping to the top of the top because often more problems come with that if you're not ready for that.
mhm.
And sustainable growth is achievable and a real thing and don't worry about it. I feel like this podcast has been such a success. So, it's been such an amazing experience. We have loved it so much. All of us have, and I love our energy. I think we all have special strengths that we bring to the podcast, and that's what makes the team work the way that it does. And sometimes I feel a little bit, not that I'm the only one, but I feel like I'm a little bit of an engine in our team. I like do the engine thing and I run the engine um and for me, like the sustainability, like us working together has been such a huge part of being able to like keep the engine running. If you feel like that in your own life, if you feel frustrated, just know sustainable growth is better. It will be faster. I cannot believe we're doing this 1 year episode right now. It's actually insane that we're doing this right now. So time
Yeah.
moves faster than you think. Be okay with time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love it. It's good. So good. So good. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm looking forward to many more years of doing the podcast and talking about the divine feminine and just hanging out. Like, it's been so fun. And I just love hearing people's experiences with interacting with the podcast. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for continuing to listen. And thank you guys for sharing it with your friends. Like, so great. So grateful that we get to talk about cool stuff we love and people are listening. Just blows my mind.
Amen.
Well, thanks everybody. And we will see you next time and have a great week. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. Please make sure to give us a 5-star rating wherever you are listening and share with someone you know. See you next week.